just saying how you was describing the flooring and things. It was quite interesting.
What, in the engine room?
Yeah.
Oh, the engine room flooring was it was terrazzo. This is not terrazzo tile floor. It was laid like a concrete, but it was then it was all ground up. So I think it was the Italian style. A company called Toffolo's laid this floor, and the engine room this was, and if you'll notice that the compressors and the motors, it had a black line all the way round it, just only about half an inch to an inch wide, but it picked the engine out, and it was really, really something. You could eat off that floor. They had a floor washer, which is 60 years ago now, and the engine room, he was the engineer's assistant. They used to wash the floor at least twice a week with this floor washer. The engines, the compressors and the motors, they were all spray painted by, that was, I think they called the firm Porters, Portas, who used to spray cars, and all these machines were cleaned and polished with car polish, Autobrite I think it was in those days. So it really was something to see. We had, yes, I think there was another compressor went in there because the fitting shop moved over to the other side. They built a new fitting shop. And when you think of it, for the size of the plant, there was 8 fitters, and there was at least 8 fitters and 2 turners. We had 2 electricians, a mate and an apprentice, which was myself at the time, just for general maintenance and repairs and installation of the plant.
Can you describe like a typical day as an apprentice? When did you start?
A typical day was, we had different hours in the summer to the winter, because at that time of day you didn't work a 5-day week, you worked a 5.5-day week, and the times of starting, I know what it was 12 minutes past 7 in the morning, because it worked out, you can probably work this out quickly, it was 8 and 48/60ths, which is 8 hours and 48 minutes, and I think that was the summertime, and that worked out at, was it 40, would it be 44 hours? That 5 8s are 40, 5 times 48, 5 8s are 45. Yeah, I think that's either 42 or 44 during the summer months, and during the winter months we worked, I think it was 7:30 to 5 o'clock. My honourable starting pay, when I first started there, I started off in the office and I got 10 shillings a week, which is 50 pence in today's money sort of thing. And let me think. Oh, there was a drawing office there as well that had 2 draftsmen. They had employed 2 draftsmen of that. But a company, you wouldn't think, a company of that size would go to 2 draftsmen and all that, but they had 2 draftsmen as well. Well, probably at that time there was a lot of new stuff going in, and during the same period they built within the building itself like a coal store for storing ice in. So I think it would only be a matter of 100 ton or something like that they could store, but that was for on a real busy summer's day when there was a lot of ice being used. As I was saying, I would say that there's a lot of salt about in all those walls, because it was calcium chloride used to come in 500 weight drums, and between, that's right, I can remember now, it's yes, there was two. There's a railway line used to run between the two buildings at a slight angle. Can you call that to mind at all?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, it's on the right hand side because the office is there. Yes, and that's where the other two tank rooms were, which I couldn't, because I was trying to work out. There was, I think it was 5 or 6 down below, small ones. 1, 2 up top, 1, 2 over the railway line, and there was an odd one which was put in after the war because it all had hydraulic gear for the pushes, whereas the gear which was used for pushing the tanks forward was by an electrical motor, and it was geared down so low because it was only moving at more or less snail's pace. But on some occasions when something had gone wrong and they forgot to take the tank out at the other end, then the floor started coming up in the middle because he'd got an extra tank in and he couldn't take it, so it was banging on the other end, and they were all rising up then, and that occasionally did happen. And going back, there was I don't know if I explained, did I, that the ice used to come out, go onto the conveyors, along the conveyors into the crushers, from the crushers up the elevators and drop into the screw conveyors, which conveyed it across the pontoon and dropped into the ships. Then except for the large conveyors, which was propelled up, went right above the dock, the pontoon I should say, not the dock, but then ran all the way down. It was nearly to Humber Street, if you know Humber Street in Grimsby. And it was on an incline running down. There was what we call 2 houses, and when it used to hit these houses, there was a crusher in each house. The whole issue would shake because it was coming down. It would be coming down at a fair speed, probably 20-30 mile an hour, I think, because there was there were about the conveyors. It wasn't a conveyor as such. It was how can I describe it? It was a box arrangement like you would use in a goldfield. You know how the water runs down a chute sort of thing, and they had slight brass hoops, not hoops, but runners just in the bottom of the trough, and they used to run a drop of water down this funnel, you could say, so it would evenly run. And on occasions, if you got one jammed or broke up and they were still coming down at it, you'd have ice all over the place, and then it was a question of digging it out and pushing it down to the crusher houses. There was 1, 2, I think there was 4 crusher houses. There's 2 on the right hand side of the factory, and I don't know if it said there was 2 went over what they called Henderson jetty in those days. That was a real old jetty, and there was 2 were there. As I was saying, when I first started it, there were Albion. The lorries which used to take the ice out around the dock were old Albions, very square fronted, chain driven, which was just underneath the chain going round. It had they had to hand crank them to start them, and there was a brass tumbler switch, like a light switch, on the dashboard for just turning the engine on and off with. That was, so yeah, I think it was a magneto. It would be a magneto on them for the spark sort of thing. Until we went on to Scammell, 3-wheel. 3-wheel, I don't know what we would call them, you know, they just back up to the trailer, don't you? It's, and when we got them in, we used to get them in from Scammell themselves and convert them to electric trucks. They had a big DC electric motor on, just like the milk floats sort of thing, and a set of batteries either side. So electric trucks are nothing new in this day and age. We were having, you know, we were making them 60 years, yes, it would be 60, 65 years ago sort of thing. I think, yes, they employed 2 mechanics at that time. Plus, as I said, the fitters, turners, 2 coopers, 2 joiners, electricians, tinsmiths, welders. You know, it was a very complex outfit. But I think on the, what you'd call a production side, there's not many more than 100 people on the books, I wouldn't say, at that time. I'm trying to think of some other names. Bill Bantock was one I can call to mind. In my book, they were all old men. But when you're 14, everybody over 20 is old, aren't they? Sort of thing. It's.
Was it quite a close community then, the staff?
Yes, it was quite a close community. Had its own little sick club. You know, I think we paid 6pence a week into the sick club. And if you were off sick, you got 10 shillings a week, I think, off the sick club. It was a very close-knit family sort of thing. It was one of the Turners, old Bill Cullington, that's his name, and he was old, so I think he retired soon after I went in the forces, did Bill, but he was a man of the old school, didn't swear, didn't drink, he was a bachelor, lived at home with his sister sort of thing, and I always remember on one occasion Bill had been off sick, which he was never off sick, and he came in this Friday afternoon. He had a wing collar on, and I remember some of the fitter apprentices said to him, "Hey Bill, you're in the modern trend. You've got your teddy boy suit on," because it was like, you know, it got Edwardian trousers, weren't they, which were very, very, very narrow trousers and all that, things like that. I did mention that, you know, it was all 110 volt, which was the lighting and everything within, and the sockets within the factory which was way before its time. I think it was revamped in about 1936 time, and with all this new engine stuff in. But a lot of the other stuff when I was there, I was very lucky because it was all new stuff coming in after the war, because there'd been nothing done for the last 7 years. And I can remember on our timesheets, that was just another little thing. It was, the number was the job number was 502, which was post-war deferred repairs. It was, I couldn't remember any of the others, but you had to book that down because it was a job what should have been done, but hadn't been done till much later on. So that's all I can remember at the moment.